We will now set up the server for authentication with Ldap. So there are different utilities to set up a server for external authentication. There is a auth-config utility, which is command line interface, and a text user interface. But that's also a graphical interface, and the graphical interface is probably the easiest to use. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to install it. Yum install auth-config GTK. There we go. Now to set up Ldap, we also need some additional packages called nscd and nsspam ldapd. This is the part that sets up local name resolution and local authentication, and then it connects it to the Ldap server. And then there is also one more package called the PAM ldapd, which is really the libraries that are needed to make local authentication aware of Ldap. You really need all of them. So at this point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to install all of these packages. -y specifies install all of these packages without giving a warning. So at this point we are good to go. We can launch auth-config GTK, which is the graphical interface. And if you don't like the GTK, you can also replace GTK with TUI. That's a text user interface, but I would recommend using GTK because it's so easy to set up, and it's not so easy if you use the text interface. The first thing you need to do is to specify what user account database you want to use. By default, it's local accounts only, and we want to set it up to Ldap. Now this will set up Ldap. Now this error, what you see over there, is not something really to be serious about. It's related to the Kerberos authentication. We are not going to use Kerberos authentication, but I do want the package to be installed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on the install. Here I click install again. It's going to install the Kerberos authentication package. It's going to give me a warning. I'll press force install. So let's first change it to the Ldap password, which makes it a little simpler. Next we need the Ldap search-based domain name. This is something your Ldap provider is going to give you. For now I'll use RedHat certification, DC is equal to com. Remember, Ldap users domain are like DNS domains, but you have to use type specification and comma as a separator between them. The next thing what we are going to use is the Ldap server name. Now this is very important to be aware of that. You need something that matches the TLS certificate that we are going to receive from the client. Basically, IP addresses don't work. What does work is the name of the server. And the name of the server I'm going to use is Ldap is equal to //server.rhatcertification.com. The reason it has to be a server name that it has to match the name with the name that's been used in the certificate. And the certificate usually has one name. Next, we are going to specify that we are going to use TLS to encrypt connections. This is important because if you don't use TLS and you do use Ldap, passwords are sent unencrypted over the network, and this is something you don't want to have. Then we click on download certificate, and we are going to do that by clicking on the download CS certificate button, as you can see there. And to download the certificate, I'm going to use the certificate URL from the FTP server. So I'm going to type FTP server.redhatcertification.com/pub/slapd.pem. Next, I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to click Apply. It takes a while. We have to be patient. To test, I'll use the Ldap user 5. I have Ldap users 1 to 5. I can use any one of them to test the authentication. This is good, even if it... So I'm going to use su-ldap user 5. This is good, even if it doesn't log in, we can just ignore the error. We are going to fix them later. But for now, if you just type ID, you can see that the current user ID is Ldap user 5. So now let's do a grep on Ldap user 5 on etc password file. We don't have any errors. We can work as Ldap user 5, and we can create a file in the temp directory, and that's how you check. That's how you set up an Ldap authentication server. Thank you.